I
I
can't
can't
hear
hear
anything.
anything.
Can everyone else?
Must be
Must be
my
my
audio.
audio.
Maybe you have to mute Charlie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I needed that this morning.
Yeah.
Wonder why Charlie couldn't hear it though. That's weird.
I don't know. I don't know if he's changing computers or checking something else. Not real sure. But as we've been talking, oh, and Terry apologizes. She had to switch weeks on us. She was supposed to be here this week doing the dowsing. And so she's going to switch and do next week because she was on the road. So I figured since we've been having these visioning conferences and basically discussing the ministry and our messages, our vision, our mission, and our values, if we might take that another step, because we've talked about the need to have revenue. Charlie, are we okay on you hearing us now? You're on mute now. I'm assuming since he answered, he hears. Oh, we got some earbuds. Good.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. So what I thought we would do is talk about dreaming what a potential use of this 5 acres of land that the Summer Fund is donating, Charlie and Bobby, to the ministry, and see what we might be able to make of it to build some, not only just a presence of the ministry itself and have a like a sanctuary for people to come visit, hang out, maybe do a conference once in a while, but also as a revenue generating model for the organization itself. Because as we've discussed, the donations and dues aren't cutting it. And so we're not quite flush and doing very well financially. So we've talked about different ways that some of the ministers could be selling their wares or selling their services and giving a percentage as a tithe to the ministry, or any other forms of income and revenue to keep us in good spirits. So I wanted to show you some thoughts I've had on trying to take this to another level. Make sure I give you the right one here. And talk about the property, which is actually, it's not built out at this point. So this is just a prospectus of what could be. And just to let you know that this image is a little off height from the standpoint that the land is actually flat. But here's an aspiration to build out the 29 palms for the ministry for its purpose. So what I'd love to do is just talk a little bit about the land itself. Bobby and Charlie are graciously willing to donate this land to the ministry. And we're a 501c3 property. And so what Bee and her lawyer friend, who's doing their land up in Oregon, said was that they found out that this was permitted for a residential unit, for a possible guest building, and an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit. So those 3 pieces of land or property on the property would be able to house maybe some agricultural workers or some visiting ministers or anything else. If we wanted to have like a mini workshop or meeting in the area, we could host somebody for short term. And so we thought, and I put the picture of the cat and one of my teachers in the background too, because I thought that was just an interesting way to say, okay, we're looking for a place to feel inspired and to call home, and what I call a sanctuary. And so that was the birth of what that meant. So it's a blank canvas at this point because it's undeveloped property. And if you can see this, this is the location of it is east of Los Angeles in San Bernardino County. And it is over here, this green check mark here is nestled right into this, which is Joshua Tree National Park. And Joshua Tree is a very spiritual, energetic place to gather people. And so here's another view. This is 29 Palms, and this is the location of the property in accordance to it. And then here on the property itself, we're in this corner, shared with probably another 4 or 6 parcels. And here's an image that Bobby shared with me on the property itself. And you see it's very flat. The mountains are off in the distance. So the images that you're going to see of this property with potential has a little bit of out of sorts navigation for having height. But it's something to get the juice moving. But it is 5 acres, zoned rural residential. And so we can do crop cultivation, house, guest house, accessory dwelling unit. Additional permits need to be made if we do animals for food or milk or whatever. And then there potentially would be restrictions on work for home income, and we would have to discuss and decide how much or what those limitations are and what permits we would need to do. And this is something we did in Sedona in Hawaii. We basically had an agricultural plot and we were able to do certain things, but not other things. So as long as we keep in compliance and maybe provide something back to the community, we'll be in good shape. I was curious about the elevation and what the temperature ranges were. So they say it's 1,988 feet above sea level, and the temperatures stay between 60s and 100, and the coolest days are in the 40s, and that's 17 nights a year. So to me, being a warm weather person, that's more appealing than being up in a mountain somewhere where we have to go through 4 whole seasons. But that's me personally. And in the water source, there are 4 sub-basins where they excavate water, and this is water that comes off of the Pinto Mountain from rainfall. So there's abundance of water, and we actually know of some organizations that take that to a different level and can provide water capture and then redisperse the water on the land so that we can grow environments and ecosystems that allow for a lot more than just what you see here, which is desert. Any questions so far? Comments? This can be conversational. So here's a vision with looking at sustainability as well as what the future is, and that's building residences and architecting homes with natural resources. And so we have the possibility of building with hemp bricks or hempcrete. It's called concrete with hemp built into it. So it's more nature sourced, and it has a way of degrading in the end rather than having waste that you don't know what to do with once the facility is past its load. And as you can see here, what my vision was is to have something built into a hill, so we could actually build a hill on the property to have elevation, and there would be some more containment of cooling underneath the ground as opposed to having everything out exposed in the 100-degree weather all the time. And there's kelp or sea bricks. I know a couple of companies who are actually farming kelp, which is really easy to grow. And in abundance, you make these bricks that then you can build houses with. And it kind of answers all of the questions for carbon footprint. So there's no carbon output from some of these products as they disintegrate or go to waste. And so it's a better outcome for the future. And then there's the mycelium network of mushrooms work in steel rebar. So they build steel with the mycelium elements to it, so that literally these structures are formed from a source of nature and can, let me just, Charlie, you've got something going on in your background. So Kevin, could you mute him or not? Anyway, so the steel rebar with the mycelium in it is a structure that can literally grow. You can grow buildings. And a friend of mine who's doing this, who is actually going to form a pitch competition in September, so we can come to the competition and pitch this idea to see if we can find some funding to build some of these natural structures. And what she says is, her example is, if you build these buildings out of these materials and there's a hailstorm, or in this case, whatever storm that degrades the building in some way, there's some damage to it. Maybe the military base actually crashes a plane into somebody's house. The house can literally repair itself. And so the dings from the hail is the example she's used. It's like having your roof have a hole or a leak or something in it. And it's like these kinds of materials would then regrow and bring these things back together again. And so to me, that's an exciting idea about taking construction into the future and have it be healthy for humanity as well as the planet.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just got a message from B. She tried to get in, but something about a passcode. I don't know. She said she forgot to mention that you need to know water rights status for that property. Does it have water rights? Does it have a well? If there is no well, to dig one would be between 10 and 30 grand, depending on how deep you needed to go.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
It's timely that you bring that up at this point. And is she going to try to get back in, or?
She didn't say.
Okay.
I'll tell her to try again.
Yeah, the passcode is in, where did we put it? it's actually the passcode link is from the newsletter. So if she can find the newsletter and use that link, it's got the passcode already in it.
Okay.
I forgot where I saved the other one. Maybe actually, let's take a pause and let B come in because she's the one that did the research on it, at least the zoning and all that. 1 second.
All right. I just sent her a note.
Yeah, and then I think I have the passcode here. There it is. In my weekly, I put it in the discussion thing just in case.
Okay.
And here comes Caitlin. Okay, so if you could text her that passcode I just put in the chat, that would be good. Thank you, Kevin, for letting her in.
Yeah. Right.
Caitlin.
This is where did it go? Hang on.
While you're looking to do that, Caitlin, we're talking about the property that Charlie and Bobby are
Damn
graciously
it.
donating to the ministry. And so we've talked about building a sanctuary at 29 Palms, which is out near Joshua Tree. I don't know if you're aware of the area. And so,
Yes, being in Arizona, it's not too terribly far away, so that's actually very exciting for me.
yeah. So let me just show you the property itself. It's very flat, but what we've done is kind of taken this idea of doing natural materials, building materials, and building out something, a sanctuary that could help sustain with water and plants and buildings that actually are built out of natural materials. So we went through a little bit of that.
Wonderful.
And then here we are at the regenerative agriculture side. And this would include water capture. You see the solar panel here. It would be water rain capture, reusing and repurposing gray water and any of those sorts of things. Harvesting it. I've seen literally some people that build in Africa, in sub-Sahara Africa, these moon-shaped half circles that are tiered. And so it captures what little water, just inches per year, and it pools it in such a way that they can build ground cover and then from that grow trees. And so they've got these little oases across the entire continent of Africa.
Are you referring to Jeff Lawton?
I don't recognize that name, but there are like two people that I'm familiar with that I keep seeing who are doing this in a very big way. And it's really amazing because what they're doing is they're regenerating the desert back into lush vegetation. And they're grading it in such a way that it's natural and it kind of feeds itself after it gets going.
I do have my certification in permaculture, just so you
Oh,
know, and
beautiful.
I have been living off grid for 9 years.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I only did it for 1 year in Hawaii and I loved it.
So this is great, and I have some good resources that I can share with you guys as the
Beautiful.
time unravels. So this is wonderful. How many acres are we
5
talking?
acres. 5 acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Awesome. I'm so glad to know that about you.
Mhm.
So, drought resistant crops, native plants, medicinal herbs, all of that. I'm sure that perks your ears up, but we could
Oh,
literally
yeah.
do this as a
Who's
source of
who's
income.
going to take care of it on the property?
Well, we would have probably a team, and I would be willing to go because I've run these kinds of things before. I'd need a team, though. I would need people that knew what they were doing, and I could just supervise and make sure that goes. But I think we have another member that might be willing to live on site too. And
Yeah,
that
you'll definitely need somebody that lives on site because
Yeah.
too many things can go wrong very quickly, and you want somebody there
Yeah.
to be ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Now, my
Mm.
experience was I moved into a situation that was already built. So having to build from scratch would be a whole new experience. But Laura, I think you said Ariana was interested, and she's done this sort of thing before. Not necessarily the property, but she's run businesses and she's got a mind to build something like this out. So she'd be a great partner.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then we could have you on the advisory board. And if you want to come out and get your hands dirty, of course.
Oh, of course, that's my favorite thing on the planet to do
good.
is to be working with the earth.
All right, beautiful. And then the soil regulation. I've seen a couple of films. We're doing some sustainability projects here in San Diego. There was one film that talked about the farming and the industrial, wiping out of crops and soils and the tilling and all of these things that are just killing the viability of this soil. And so they were talking about regenerative growth of ground cover, which is then tiered with other kinds of edibles and then tiered with trees, which then gives you that whole cyclic effect for the carbon effect to be in its natural state and allow soils and things like that to be refurbished. You put, of course, fertilizer with goats or horses or cows or whatever you're going to raise. And that also adds to this whole recycling of the sustainable soils. And so,
So what you're describing is called a desert food forest. It's called a food forest, and there's 7 layers to it. And
okay,
each layer helps support the next layer. And the furthest layer, which is the 7th layer, is your trees for shade and for wind block.
yeah,
And then each one gets closer and closer. The one that's closest to the dwelling is your most edible, and the ones that have the higher intensive attention that's needed. So that's what you're describing as a food forest.
I love it.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I'm getting more excited. Everybody else, how about you?
Cool. B can't get on. She's trying to get on the phone, and I guess she can't use the numbers or something. I don't know what she's talking about.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
And she got the password too, so she could try it.
yeah, she
Oh,
said
wow.
it's not working for whatever reason.
Well, that's
So
too bad
maybe
because
we'll
she's
see her,
got
maybe we won't.
yeah, she's got experience in this too because she's building out a mycelium farm up in Oregon, and so I want to really see how
Yeah.
she could help contribute.
Caitlin, how far is this place from where you live?
It's probably 3, 4 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's east of LA, so it depends on which route I take, I guess. Maybe 3 hours. But yeah, it's something that I could at least do a site visit or two, talk to whoever needs to be talked to. I do have a couple that live in the area currently, but they're planning to move. They would have been perfect stewards for this because they want to do this kind of work and they didn't have the resources. And so I was thinking to put them into place and then they could steward it while we build it out and get things going. But they had to take a job somewhere else. And so they may come back, but they were kind of my backup plan if Ariana or myself weren't available to go.
So just so you know, there are websites that I can point you to later where you can get permaculture students that have fairly recently gotten their certification with
Okay,
a
I like
with
that.
a
I
and
like
they may
that.
be looking to get started, and for their own resume, they might be willing to take this on as
Yeah,
a first time endeavor. So that might be a win-win situation. But housing or an RV or something would be
yeah.
needed for them, to live on.
Yeah, I imagine there's quite a diverse population there. I know there's some conservatism, whatever that word is.
Yeah, that one.
There are people that have, like, I think that I saw a hot springs out there and there was a crystal shop. And so I think there are a lot of people coming through, the Joshua Tree mindset kind of person, almost like not maybe Burning Man, but people that are just into living off grid and kind of having an RV lifestyle or small off-grid-ish kinds of existence so that it wouldn't have to be a lavish hotel to get somebody to be
Right.
interested in taking this on. So
Uh,
here's not, yeah, go ahead.
Now,
Mr. Chairman.
Nikki, I would think if somebody could donate like a old motorhome, a person could live out there while they're developing the
Yeah,
property.
Mhm.
yeah. And I think that's probably very viable because I did look into the water access and in the town, there are 4 um, substations where they do excavation of water from the rain from the mountains off in the distance. So I'm assuming that water is something that can be had, but I would love to create more water and just have that cyclic,
Yeah,
provide for space. And I've been told too that solar, you can gather more solar than you need, but then sell it back to the city, and that becomes a viability thing where the city becomes reliant on you too, and is a source of income that is taxable and all the good things the city needs to have from you too. So it puts you in a better way, unless of course the utility companies fight it. So there's that possible barrier. But I like the idea.
now there's 3 neighbors out there that have permanent residence. that are adjacent to this property.
Uh-huh.
So somebody could talk to them, find out,
Okay.
how they get water, etc.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good idea. Mm.
And the electricity is right by the property.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So the revenue models, I came up, well, this was me and AI were commiserating. So it's like there are 8 different revenue models here, and I'm sure there's a lot more. We just check the chat.
Years ago, I found out you need to drill down something like 230 feet to get to water. I don't know. I don't know what it is like today, and
Okay.
it's very costly to drill.
But yeah, yeah. And I think we would leverage whatever access is there. I can also send you this link, Caitlin, too, but it's in the newsletter if you get that, the links to this slideshow. So anyway, sustainable agriculture, we can grow and sell specialty crops or herbs or native plants for landscaping, the education and workshops, hosting online courses. We've talked about doing that anyway. Regenerative practices, that's another kind of hot button for people to learn. It's instead of just the spirituality, regenerating the earth is a whole nother targeted audience for us. And that would be maybe some way that we could start to grow the ministry too, is to have collectives of these kinds of people that come together and share their intelligence.
Yeah. Pioneers showing a better way.
Exactly. Exactly. Walking the talk.
I'm reading a wonderful book on the materials we use in the world and the evolution. And it's absolutely amazing. Like when the Romans discovered concrete, they only took it to a certain limit. And for
Yeah.
maybe 600-700 years, they didn't do anything with it. But in the evolution of concrete, they get concrete that will seal its own cracks. They get concrete that like put living organisms in them.
Yes, that's the hempcrete and the kelp bricks and the mycelium rebar. Those are the same things my architecture friend is talking about, where it's regrowing itself. I do think these are ancient techniques. It's just getting back to the land and the laws of nature.
Yeah, and
Of
the
that.
old adobe houses that were well insulated.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I saw some things from Persia. There were some domes that had sort of the point on it, so that made it look kind of like a mosque, but they were storage facilities and there was depth to them as well, but it was a cooling tank and it's where they stored things like ice for months and months during the desert times. And it's like, that's really interesting because there's no electricity in it. Apparently, it's Mother Nature taking an energetic source, putting it into this protected area, and somehow it stays cool in there. So,
and the evolution's amazing. Like they're building very low cost houses now with 3D printers.
yeah, yeah,
And they put them up in no time. And
that's
they
right.
can make them into any shape.
Yeah, I have a friend who's building geodesic domes in Chile, and he's turning them into little hobbit structures, and they're so unique and different. And he does these great films about them. I'll share it with everybody. But he says what he's doing is he's also looking into alternative ways to exist in the economy. So he's building these things out, and he's having to pay for them in their local currency, but he's willing to rent them for things like utility tokens, which is what I was building with him in a different community. And he said, anybody who has these tokens can come and stay for me, stay with me and pay in these tokens. And it's like the tokens we didn't even have to pay for. We earned them by working, but we were given those tokens, and they're not um, fiat based. They're not dollar by dollar related. But I have hundreds of thousands of these tokens, and he says you can come for 200 tokens per night. Like, I'm there. And if we could grow those kinds of cooperatives where we exchange different things of value without having to go out of pocket all the time, because that's not where everybody is skilled. And so to me, giving those value exchange in greater opportunity, like if somebody has an RV that they can put on the property, we can rent it out. Or if somebody has the food skills to come and grow the crops and be in the kitchen all the time, or somebody has, other resources other than just money, like Charlie and Bobby, where they're going to donate the land. So we have land we don't have to pay for. Well, we'll have to pay taxes, but it's another way of building this value exchange where somebody has abundance of something but needs something else that somebody else has abundance of. And so it's this circular economy where you don't necessarily have to all have your 9 to 5 paycheck, your house, your car, 2 kids, a fence, and a garage, and all these kinds of things. It's like you don't have to live that way anymore. And we're just trying to find ways to build that into a new way of existing, more
And
human.
I think if you demonstrate a new way of sustaining
Yes.
and growing,
Yeah.
uh, and you're successful at it, you probably get foundation money, grants, if you,
Yeah.
as long as you demonstrate the viability of it.
That's true. And you know what? In these 8 revenue models, I don't think we put grants in there. So that is another way to go. I love it. So the renewable energy we talked about, having excess energy from solar panels, sell it back to the grid. There are a lot of programs now, and I've got a couple of companies here in San Diego who are looking into treating like tribes and underserved communities, people that are really having a hard time and not necessarily getting all of the resources they need, having them be in this kind of vein where they're literally giving back to the cities and the county or the state in such a way that it's a win-win for both sides. So there are some bids going out. Yeah, Caitlin.
Is this property on power?
I don't.
There's electricity right at the property.
Okay, my suggestion would be to just go full on solar and don't tie into the grid. In my experience, it benefits the electric company way more than it does the person who's trying to save money on because they still find ways to charge you
Yeah.
monthly for fees and things of that nature, and you're not fully independent. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. That if you
Okay.
have the option to go full on,
Yeah.
then do that.
All right. I love that. And I
Mm.
want to know more about 9 years off grid, how you've handled that politically too, because I know our city came after us. They didn't like that we were independent of them.
Huh.
Yeah. So,
You know, science has developed a nano battery that's so small and so much more powerful than these big batteries we have today.
yeah.
So we're making it, and it'll energize a lot. So there's so
Yeah.
much coming down the pike.
Yeah. And I guess there are new ways to contain or have batteries store energy without as much of the toxicity. And I'm just now learning of it, but I've found a couple of people in this regenerative architect that I'm friendly with is basically working on she's got one guy who's going to pitch during the September thing with us on this. He's going to pitch his source of being able to produce either battery storage or energy itself outright from things you can buy at Ace Hardware. And so it's really controversial because the energy grid will never allow for that. But it's so easy and it's kind of like a no-brainer that if you can hit the store and build this thing, you can power your house. And it's like, huh.
Hmm.
So I'm really interested to know more about him, but we'll get to meet him during September's accelerator. So the whole
Good.
point here is to try to get into the accelerator with this model and figure out how to make it investable so we can get the right partnerships. And it doesn't have to be an equity partner. It can be somebody who just wants to be there and have a role and help facilitate the cost. It can look any which way. And that's what's kind of exciting for me is that we can.
What does the sanctuary look like? I'm assuming you guys have discussed that.
Well, these images that you're seeing are AI generated. So they're just blue sky. We can do anything we want. So we don't know. And one of the structures I showed was kind of an angled building that was built into a hill. And I was thinking about, maybe trying to do some underground bits. And that's where the whole cooling thing from the Persian idea came into mind. And what my ex-husband used to do in Iran was they built their house into the mountain. And so it stayed cool during the hot parts of time. And it was easy to heat because they had ventilation and could run fireplaces. And so I was thinking about something like that, although we'd have to build our own hill, which could be an interesting other project. We're trying to do things with what do you do with all the waste that's going into landfills? Because landfills are so full now, they can't even put any more waste on them. They're having to move to another place. It's like, what if we could compost that waste into something, a structure of a hill with it became an incubator or an oven or a cooling pit or something. I don't know. They're talking about taking glass and plastic and turning it into asphalt to get rid of the tar and all the
Mhm.
toxicity of that kind of thing. So it's kind of endless what you could possibly do. So here, sustainable consulting, we could get these interns to start with their own money-making venture by giving consulting services and what they're doing, improving by building out our land with us. Product options, developing permaculture kits or building materials. I have another pitch that's going into the September thing, which is construction and demolition waste recycling, where you take corporate, city, individual, all the different places that have different kinds of waste, and you resource it and develop an app. All I'm doing is developing the app to say, I'm going to put you together. It's a matchmaking service. And it's like, okay, if you go pick up that one and then you drop it off there, we're going to pay you over here for the thing that we're going to get. And it's like, you just do this mishmash of, okay, here are the resources, here are all of the elements, and the moving parts could be a triangle or it could be a one-way back and forth exchange, but you just move it
Developing.
forward. It's like paying it forward, if you would, and then it all circles back to bring whatever your need. What do you have to give? What do you have that you need? And you find 2 or 3 or 4 different places to figure out how that path or that roadmap works.
Yeah.
Cool.
We did talk about carbon offsetting. There are several things that we can be doing. This is where I'm getting the education from my team who's doing these bids for city work, and I'm finding out all kinds of things. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's like way bigger than my brain can handle, but there are some
Mhm.
different things that we can be doing to offset and move into that 2030 goal of the UNDP and the Paris Agreement and all of these things about bringing the planet back into harmony. And then virtual retreat space, we can still do programs. I was thinking of doing like a studio where we would do podcasts and TV spots for all of the visiting clergy and people coming in with the sustainability mindset, and just having a studio where anybody that's coming through Joshua Tree might stop over and say, hey, we can do that. So just some ideas.
Endless possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And then for the funding, this is where I'm a little bit worried that we might not be wildly financially successful. So a VC or an angel might not invest in us. But I think if we can get like-minded individuals who are good in finance, and I'm finding 2 or 3 communities right now that are being built out by people who were formerly into traditional finance, who are going into decentralized finance and figuring out how to build these communities that are sustainable. And so if we get their eye or their ear, I think we might be able to find a better source of income for us. It's not married to just what's my return on investment and how soon. That's a pretty distant way of doing business with somebody. So any other thoughts on this one?
Well, the first thought I had when I saw the picture, it immediately came to mind developing a spiritual oasis in the desert.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a sermon I heard as a young kid about the wonders of God, and he enabled this magnificent oasis to come out of a barren desert.
Yeah.
That story, I don't know why, flashed through my mind.
Yeah.
But if we could have like a sustainable farm to afford our spiritual end of things.
Exactly.
Would be wonderful.
Yeah.
It could become a center for Madonna minister, or like an official center.
Right. And it allows for anybody to be in their own ministry by just living the lifestyle that they choose. And it's a choice. So that's wonderful. And 29 Palms was known as an oasis. It was like the 29 palms that they named the city after had some significance as to the placement of them in the desert, of having a source of water and abundance. And so it eventually grew out to more than 29, but that was where it got its name. So that was kind of interesting. It's like, ooh, we could be a sanctuary, oasis, or anything we want. So,
Well, to me, oasis is a warmer sound than sanctuary.
okay.
Sanctuary sounds very theological and monks run around. Whereas oasis, it's a point of rescue in the desert.
Okay. Yeah.
And we should be a rescue in the desert, sustained by the firm.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. All right. The only thing I have left here is basically just some memes that we could help to fundraise the matching, because Bobby and Charlie are also offering a matching of up to $3,000 for anything you bring in, whether it's donation, dues, or just a tithe or investment in this property. So they'll match that up to $3,000 between now and our birthday, which is in October. So thank you for that, Charlie and Bobby.
Yes.
You're welcome. And of course, that's the anniversary. October is the anniversary of our founding as a corporation
Yep.
in October of 1979.
Are we going to go with that number, or are we going to go with the 54 years? Because I know that Arnold Michael made some reference to 1970, I think it was, whatever the 54 years was, as opposed to 45. We thought we were 45 years old this year.
The corporation, I think you look at the charter, was 79, I think, October.
Yeah, I think I saw papers for 78.
Okay, well, whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah, so we can have a party or, a bigger event in October for our birthday, and that this matching would lead up to it. So here's a little bit of okay, dream a little, manifest a lot. We could do Haven with the Purpose, and just different ways to get people to donate toward the matching fund if they happen to believe in this. Double the potential. Again, it's about the matching fund. So those are 3 little things that we came up with as possible.
Nikki, thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
The earbuds are working much better for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, because it takes some of the background noise away from you.
Yeah, all of it.
Good. Sorry, it took the whole time here. But now you know, right?
Yeah, you made a very nice presentation. You're very enthusiastic about the work.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
Definitely. And just getting the excitement of the members here. It's like, what role would you like to play, or what kind of inspiration might you bring to help something like this nurture and become something bigger and better?
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll be able to grow the portfolio, our investment portfolio. That'll help.
Yes. And that's something I'm still wanting to learn from you. It's like in addition to all these dreams that I have. So, any other comments? Caitlin, tell us more about your existence.
Oh, it's a work in progress. So the off-grid lifestyle is definitely not suitable for many people.
Yeah.
If people are not accustomed or okay with uncomfortability, it would not be a good fit for them. Also, just getting used to being uncomfortable at times. I didn't know anything about off-grid when I first started, but for emotional reasons, I decided that I wasn't going to wait until retiring until I did something that I really wanted to do. So I just, at 50, just jumped in and did it, and didn't understand solar at all.
Yeah.
But I trusted that other people were out in the community and knew how to do it, and that there would be support. And there has always been support of some kind. So it's worked out. It's a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's the peace of mind and the you know, the constant ability to do earthing out
Yeah.
here without the distractions is phenomenal. So that's been a really good fit for me to stay more grounded
Yeah.
in self. I'm very much, as a realtor and a property manager, I'm very much involved with human beings and conflict and unsettling. So I'm able, at this lifestyle, I'm able to be in the world without being of the world.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that helps.
Yeah. And
So,
those, oh, good.
Caitlin, you're a great resource, and
Definitely.
I'm glad you're here. And
Thank you.
I have no clue what brought you into our community.
Brought me back, actually. I was a part of it a number of years ago through Shirley when she lived in Arizona.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
I'm here.
Yes, I see. You look great.
And Caitlin
So
is a
anyway,
teacher.
through Shirley, she had ordained me a number of years ago, and then several years went by and life happened, and I made a couple of geographical moves and got myself disconnected. And here recently, I reached out to Shirley reached out to me several weeks ago, if not a couple of months ago, and asked me if I was interested in getting reengaged, and I said absolutely, I'd like to get reengaged. So
Oh,
that's I'm supposed to speak, I think, with Laura about getting my ministerial certificate. Is that correct, Paula? Is it Laura that
No, it's Sally
Oh,
Dwyer.
Sally Dwyer, right? Okay. So,
Yeah.
so I'll be looking to do that too.
awesome.
So, Caitlin, where do you live?
I'm in a little town called Yucca, Arizona, but it's situated between Lake Havasu and Kingman, Arizona.
Okay.
Okay,
I mostly work in Lake Havasu.
okay. So you know the desert very well.
Yeah, because I lived in Phoenix for 21 years.
Okay.
When I knew Shirley, and Shirley and I worked on the awakening process, which I understand you guys are going to be implementing down the road. So
Mhm.
yeah, happy to help you
Wonderful.
with that. I was one of the first people that went through the training with Shirley to pass on the torch, right, Shirley?
You bet. Yes.
Well,
Well,
So
thank you for coming back and carrying the torch.
and it's synchronistic that you're here at this time.
Yeah,
This will be very
exactly.
useful. Yeah.
So I'm working with a group out of California. I'm not sure where in California he's from exactly, but they're two cousins, male cousins. They have a project, a 501c3 called Deserts to Forest. You might want to check that out.
Love that.
They have purchased 310 acres of vacant land out in my area where they are going to do a forestation project to help offset carbon sequestration from the destruction of the Amazon. And
Wow.
so I'm on their board to help them with that as well. So I will keep you in the loop for
Yeah.
that. But they're wanting to do something similar. I educated them a little bit on a food forest, and they're willing to allow us locals to put in a food forest on their property.
That's awesome.
And to help support the local economy, which is actually fairly poor and sickly with a lot of chronic illness, and it's an elderly community mostly.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to help bring in a medical clinic with functional medicine, not traditional medicine. No offense to anybody if you're in
Oh,
Western medicine.
love it.
So there's a lot of little things that could tie into this project. So that's why I say I do have a good deal of running notebooks with lots of resources for future use.
That's awesome. You know, another thing that occurred to me was because we are not as stable as we would like to be at the moment, perhaps we would lease this property to someone like that organization who would build it out and then would have some other agreement later to either re-engage or just continue to get royalties or whatever that is. We could
Mhm.
even, you know, take on something like that. It's considered.
You could do the same thing with leasing out to a solar farm as well.
Yeah. Okay. You know, that might be a good thing to get it going
Hmm.
and then build it into a sanctuary later or an oasis
Yeah.
later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And what can we do to work with the Joshua Tree area?
Yeah. There
I
could be
mean,
some,
that I looked at it and that forms almost a perfect triangle back to us.
yeah, that's true.
Because, you know, one end of the park, the other end of the park, and they just meet at the property.
Yeah,
Is how I originally saw it. You know, we could form alliances and work with those groups and whatever, and you know that would be spiritual stuff in our backyard.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so intriguing about it. So thank you, Charlie, for even thinking about it and for allowing us to dream.
Yeah, and I love what Kevin said about an oasis.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Nikki, are you aware of the core principles of the permaculture community?
Not exactly. I know of it. I'm not in it yet, but I would love to know more.
So just in a nutshell, it's real simple. Three things. It's care for they have a certain way that they may state it, but it's care for the earth, care for people, and care for the earth, care for people, and equality or sustenance for all, so that everybody has a fair share.
Yes.
Fair. I think that's what it is. Fair share.
Yeah.
Equitable equality in the bounty
Yes.
of it. And so when you look at their principles, it would be very much in alignment with the Madonna ministry, or with what most all of you do on a daily basis. So it's another good thing to take on the permaculture as a project for the Madonna ministry because of those principles.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, you know, I've been learning about the sustainable development goals, and I've been learning about, you know, the planetary boundaries and Earth for All and all of these organizations, but it's like, it's way more than any one person can do. And so to find a niche where somebody is literally taking it and putting it into action on the land is something that I'm looking for. So I love that. And we can give back to the bigger, broader view of changing the planet, one little
Right.
5-acre plot at a time.
And Caitlin, just for your medicinal clinic, echinacea is probably one of the most important herbs
Yeah.
because it has so many principles that the germs cannot mutate to fight it. It's
Okay.
an antiviral, it's an antibacterial, it's an antiseptic. I use it. I never got COVID because I make my own tinctures. And I'm now growing my own echinacea in my little garden. So for me, that would be just a suggestion. That would be, as a certified herbalist, that would be the most important thing you want to put in that garden first,
Thank you.
because it can heal anything. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's my
I look forward
favorite.
to growing it.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I mean, the flowers are gorgeous, and you use the roots. So you have to grow lots of flowers because you do have to dig up the roots and grind them up. But you know, there's a place in Oregon that does organic, and I trust them, and I buy most of my supplies from them because I didn't have much land to grow
Right.
until my husband built me containers. So yeah, it can be bought elsewhere and tinctured in vodka, which is pretty cheap. And it makes a wonderful natural medicine.
Okay.
That's
You got to
wonderful.
put it in something because it's pretty rugged, but put it in orange juice. It's pretty rugged. I'm used to it, so I can just sip it down, but most people go, ew, like just so throw it in orange juice. But yeah, there are a lot of there's a German guy, I forgot his name, Brunner, I think, who wrote a whole book about natural antibiotics and stuff. I will send you that name and the name of the book, because yeah, you know,
Thank
our
you.
medicine's been there. Nature gives us the medicine. They've stolen it and ignored it for so
Right.
long. So
All right.
just
Any
my
last
2
words?
cents worth.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think we all have resources to contribute towards something like this, and it kind of reinvigorates what we might be able to do as a collective, as opposed to just having individual ministries and talking about it. this is something we can actually do, and I love that.
This is exciting. Thank you, Charlie and Bobby, so much for
Yes, thank you.
plunking this in our laps and getting us thinking
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
alternatives.
You're welcome. And who would have known when I got that property when I was 17?
Really? Oh my
Ah,
God.
Yeah.
wow.
Very cool.
Well, bless you for
Yes.
giving it to the Holy Mother.
So
She's
what are we
gonna-
doing next week, gang?
Next week, Terry comes back. She was supposed to be
Okay.
here this week and got called in to travel, so she will come next week, and we'll do more of the dowsing.
Oh, good.
So I'll resend that publication that she had said to just pick anything you want to do out of it, and she's open to taking that to another conversation.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you all. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Nikki, for your research. That was
Yeah.
just fascinating.
No, it was
Yeah.
fun for me.
Thank-
That kind of thing is fun. That's not work.
Thank you. It's really interesting.
Great. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
week, everybody.
Take care.
Love
Bye.
you all.
care.
Have a blessed week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.